Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
This is Peach breaking all the tension of today's film. And this is the final day in Viewer Choice Week, all part of Post Shriek Out Reaction, our 31 days of horror movie reviews. And today's request comes from Wolfsbane, who wanted us to review Perfect Blue. And I said earlier, this week is basically just films I always meant to see and never got around to. Because I remember this film, it came out in the 90s, and the 90s was when anime got big in America. And I remember when I started to get into all the different types of anime, not just like Dragon Ball and like Toonami stuff, where like, oh yeah, really strong people punching and screaming a lot. When I started to discover, it's like, oh, there's like Cowboy Bebop out there, and there's like Evangelion, and all these other kinds of things out there. Every single DVD or VHS that I bought always had an ad for Perfect Blue at the beginning. Like every single one of the more mature, like adult, that makes it sound like it's porn, but one of those more like, but yeah, like the more mature, stylized animes that I used to buy up, they would always have ads for Perfect Blue at the beginning. And I was always intrigued to go back and check it out, but I never did, especially after Black Swan came out, because I love Black Swan, and everybody, when that movie came out, said, oh, so this is just the American version of Perfect Blue. That's all that it is. And watching this, honestly, I don't think it's it's that much of an overlap. I think people have exaggerated that a little bit. I mean, there's influence in there. You can definitely see it, but I mean, you can see influence in there from a lot of different sources in Black Swan. But it was still good to finally get a chance to see this. Have you ever seen this before?
No, I haven't. Like, when it comes to anime, I didn't really get into the more mature stuff until I was like, like in high school and stuff. Not really like, when I was younger. It was mostly like Pokemon, Sailor Moon for me.
Well, this movie came out in 1997. I mean, it came to America in like 1999. You were in high school when this came out.
Well, I guess like late high school, because like, I don't know.
But yeah, so this movie, it is definitely like, even if we didn't check it out when it came out, it's definitely one that we've heard of, definitely one that people have talked about. And for good reason. This was made by Satoshi Kon, who is kind of the master at making psychological thriller animes where you're never really sure what is real and what isn't. He made Paprika, which that's not really psychological thriller, that's more of,
like sci-fi?
Yeah, that's just kind of like all over the place with genres. But he also made the series, I cannot remember what it was. I remember it came out on Adult Swim for a while. But was that thing with Lil Slugger? Do you remember that one?
Sounds familiar.
The thing in which there was like some mystery about some figure coming out at night. It was a little kid with rollerblades, and he had a gold baseball bat that had like a dent halfway through it. I do not remember the name of that one, but that was like my first exposure to his stuff. And man, that was freaky. That was one of those ones where like halfway through it you go, okay, I don't think this is what I thought it was. And then like 3/4 of the way through you go, I don't even know what in here is real anymore. Yeah, it was really wild. And when you watch this, you absolutely get that feeling that, okay, you can definitely see like hints of that in here, because there comes a moment towards the third act of this film where you are looking at this going, I don't know what is real anymore in this film. There's a moment in which you think that all this could just have been a dream, or not even a dream, but like a psychological breakdown of someone who isn't even the character that you've been following in this film. You do really start to question everything in here. And I mean, there's even like a moment in here in which I was looking at, the purpose of the film is that it follows, oh God, what was her name? Mima.
Yeah.
I believe her name was. And she is a pop star. She's a pop idol, which we talked about when we did our... Oh, did we ever even do the Red Skill review?
Yes, we did.
But I don't remember if I actually uploaded it or not. Apologies if we didn't, but we discussed before in that review that may or may not exist. And I apologize that you just heard something fall in the background. Whatever, we're not even going to cut. We talked about how over in Japan, the idol scene is very different from like the musician scene in other countries, because there is like, it is its own unique like genre of like, oh, if you're an idol, then you have to be this thing, and all these other things, and then you gotta go and do this and this and this and this. And you gotta do all these live shows, but not like live at a concert. Like you're just popping up on like a rooftop somewhere to sing some song, and everybody like there's like people who follow you no matter where you go, and that leads to a lot of obsession. Like there are stalkers here in America. We talked about that when we talked about Misery.
Like being like a pop idol is like very similar to like being like a streamer or YouTuber because like you don't have like these big gigs.
Yeah.
But like you're still very well known and everything.
There is a moment in which is after Mima leaves her idol group and she sees the other two members at her agency and they're celebrating. She goes, "Oh, what happens?" And her agent shows her the chart of musical releases, and she goes, "Wow, they debuted at number 85?" And like you're talking about that, like it's a huge deal. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, anybody who like has a song debut at number 85 is a big thing. But they're talking about them like there are, they talk about this group at the beginning of this film like they're this huge, massive deal, and then they find out that the group after she left, their song debuted at number 85, and she's like, "Oh man, we never even made the chart." It's like, wow. It like debuting at number 85 is a huge thing. They weren't even there yet, and they were already like celebrities. It is like this whole it's a big deal over there, the whole idol group, and it is definitely a thing that while you can see similarities to it in other countries, Japan's idol group is definitely idol scene is definitely its own beast. Mm-hmm. But she has decided to leave. Because she wants to become an actress. And the gigs that she starts taking as an actress, she gets this job on a drama.
Yeah.
But it's pretty dark, and it's not stuff that she ever really did as an idol, and stuff she doesn't really want to do, but she knows she has to do it in order to be taken seriously. And it starts to kind of fall apart from there. She starts to become like really depressed with what she has to do. But then she finds, and this was made in 1997, so this was still when the internet was new. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that, you can almost see the idea for this film coming about. Like you could see the director like sitting down with the internet and someone explained to him how you use the internet. And he's just like, "Oh my God, this is kind of weird. This is kind of freaky. Peach, you are panting up a storm. Are you okay, buddy?" But yeah, there's a moment when she's sitting down and someone is teaching her how to use the internet, and she finds a website that is basically just dedicated to her.
Yeah, it's called Mima's Room or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And it's like basically someone like constantly logging about like everything she does.
But not like, okay, we're gonna keep tabs on her. It's being written as if she's the one writing it. And she's reading this at first, going like, "Wow, this person really knows me." Like, she's taking it all in stride. Like, "Yeah, okay, it's a stalker, whatever." And they're like, "Today I did this, and I did this thing, and I thought to myself this thing." She's going, "Wow, this person really knows me. All right." But then she's reading it even further, and there's a moment which it says, like, "I got off the train this morning, left foot first, and that's how I know that I had bad luck today, because I always get off with my right foot first." And I knew at that moment that something was wrong. And you can see her kind of getting paranoid, like, yeah, that actually did happen this morning. How do you know what foot was the first foot that came off the train and what I was thinking at that moment? And it starts to grow from there. She starts to get more and more depressed with the stuff she has to do as an actress. And she starts, like, seeing herself as an idol, like in the big, like, puffy idol gear. Like, she's just appearing in her reflection, talking to her, saying, "You don't want to do that. No, we don't want to do, like, no, I'm an idol. I want to be an idol. That's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to do all of these things. So you're unnecessary. You," like, because she has her real name, Mima, but then she's also got, like, Memory, I think it is.
Something like that,
Yeah, I think that's her stage name. She's like, no, Mima isn't important. Memory is what's important. So I don't need you. And she starts seeing, like, it's almost like some ghostly spirit, like, just, like, dancing around outside her window, tormenting her. And she starts reading more and more of these posts. And she's starting to actually wonder, like, is is that ghost like actually the one writing this? Is that actually, maybe that thing is real? Maybe I'm not actually Mima. I don't even know what I am.
Yeah, like she starts to think that maybe she suffers from like multiple personality disorder.
There is that, yeah, like there's a lot of ideas that get thrown around in here.
And you don't know which one could be true either, like.
Yeah, and there's moments where she like reads. One of the creepier moments in here, it's a very small moment in here, but there's a moment where she's reading one of the posts, and it says, I went to this store today because I just can't resist a sale. And she's reading, she goes, I guess I went to that store today. That's really creepy to me. She's just like, I guess that's like just not even like she's. The thing that's so creepy about it isn't even that she is reading it in terror herself. She's reading it with complete like just acceptance. Yeah, she's just giving up.
Like she's not even like questioning it anymore.
Yeah, like all right, I guess that is really me. And we haven't even talked about this yet, but I've mentioned that the stalker situation when it comes to idol groups in Japan is much more than it is here in America. And yeah, there is a stalker who is following her around.
And you start to think maybe he's the one behind it, but it's way too much of a red herring, honestly. Like
yeah, it's he's involved in some way because
somehow
he's involved in some way.
But he's not like. There's more to it than just him, exactly, like...
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to be the final reveal. Mm-hmm. There's definitely another thing that's going to be involved in this. And we're not going to get too spoiler on this, because this is great, and I do think that people should need to watch it. But yeah, you're looking at that, and there's moments in which he's looking at these posts as well, and he's got, like, all these posters of Mima surrounding him, and she starts turning to him in the posters and talking to him about how it's like, you know what you need to do. You need to go and do this thing. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, it isn't Ghost, but Mima is seeing this weird spirit creature walk around and kind of torment her, and then he's also seeing like this spirit thing. So it is, I mean, there are moments in which she is thinking a thing in private, and then you see him far away, and it's almost like he's experiencing it at the same time.
And like another thing is like the drama show she's on, it's like kind of like a murder mystery with like doctors and stuff. But
one of the small problems I have with this thing is that the mystery on the show she's in is very similar to what is actually happening to her in real life.
So she's like constantly just not sure if this is happening in real life, is this happening in her head, or is this happening on the camera, or whatever. Like.
And that's something, it's not a big trope, but it's something that whenever it comes up in something where it's like, oh, this person is in a show, but what's happening in the show is exactly the same that's happening to them in real life, or someone's watching a show and what's happening in the show is exactly what's happening to them in real life. That's it's not a big enough trope for me to really go like, oh, I hate that. But yeah, I always kind of like groan a little bit when I see it. But then there is that moment in which they take that and they kind of mess with it in a way that makes you go, is this even a show?
Yeah.
Or is this a thing that she's just imagining?
Yeah.
Or is it a show and Mima's, memery doesn't actually exist as something that the person in the show has come up with?
Or is she still a pop idol and she's just imagining herself as like an actress on the show?
Or is there no show and is there no pop idol and this is all real, the thing that we think is a show? There's moments where they mess with that and I'm like, you know what? You made it work. You made it work. You pulled all this back around. So I really, they took a thing that always kind of annoys me and really sold it and made me follow it along. Also, I will say this thing, it is graphic. It is very, very graphic.
But it's not like constantly graphic.
And it always serves a point too, whenever it's graphic. Probably huge trigger warning for everything coming up here. But the thing that really starts to set Mima off and make her actually start to go, oh, hold on, I don't really want to do this
having
anymore.
Second thoughts here.
The thing that makes her do it is that they tell her, like, okay, there's going to be a scene in this drama. Your character is going to be raped. And she's got two agents. And one of the agents is, like, this very protective figure of her. Like, the other one is the business guy. It's like, no, this is good for you.
I think the protective figure, like, Rumi or something? Rumi or something. But it's like... she's like a mother figure.
I thought it was kind of mother.
I thought it was her mom at first, because there are like moms who like want to like control their kids and stuff. So I thought she was one of them.
But which I definitely think they were going for like a motherly figure there. I think they were going for like some kind of that role behind her. And when this role comes up, Rumi just goes, no, there is no way you are doing this. You are not, no, it is not happening at all. And the other agent's like, come on, this is a big scene. Like, it's like, hey, other people have done. Susan, what's her name, did that thing, which I don't know they actually said in Japanese, but we were watching it with
subtitles?
Yeah, subtitles. And the subtitles said, what's her name, came up as like someone's last name. And I was like, I'm wondering what the equivalent of that actually is in Japanese. Like, what actually did he say? But yeah, so Mima was like, no, I'll do it. It's actually, listen, it's just acting. It's just acting. And this actually is like a big important role, so I'm going to do it. And man, when you actually see that scene of her having to do it, and not just do it, but like they had to like stop, go back a scene, all right, do it all again, stop, move the camera around, everybody hold position. Like the guy who was doing it to her in the scene actually like has to like hold there as they're adjusting the camera and goes, I'm really sorry about this. And she's like, no, it's totally fine. This is totally just acting. And then she gets home that night and she just has a breakdown. And it's one of the best breakdowns I've seen in a movie because it is so real. Like you can just feel that she's like, there's nothing like, I'm going to use the word heroic, but that's not exactly what I mean. There's nothing like grandstanding or like, spotlight please, as I have my big monologue about how I didn't want to do this.
Romanticized?
Yeah, there's nothing like romanticized about, nothing that makes it seem like I'm a big actor giving this breakdown scene as my big important scene in the movie. It feels like you are just watching someone in their room have a meltdown. And it's like, holy crap. It is effective, and she's got multiple things like that throughout the film. Because you're just seeing how this industry is just like tearing her apart. And she does not want to do this, while meanwhile the group she just left is doing better than ever. And now she's got this stalker, but also she's having to question like what even is real. And then you start to see like people very close to her get murdered. Like people involved in the things that she did not want to do are turning up dead. So, sorry that my allergies are going nuts, by the way. I am aware of how much I'm sniffling. But now you're starting questions like, okay, who actually is doing this? And it is one of those things where you do not know until like even the very end of the movie. All the way up to the big reveal at the end, you're still questioning it. Because like we said, the stalker guy is too much of a red herring. You know something else is up. But there comes a moment in which it's like, no, the big reveal is that it was him the whole time. And then almost immediately after that big reveal, it's like, no, it wasn't him the entire time. Nope, there's still another thing out there. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, the only real complaint I have about this film is, this is going to be hard to say without spoiling anything, but the very final shot of the movie, after everything that we have seen and everything that these characters have gone through, the very final shot of the movie is basically just
done.
All right, everybody. Well, that was a wild adventure. Moving on. Like, it
felt like it was too much wrapped up in a neat little bow.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying real hard not to spoil anything, but it's like, okay, it feels like, and everything worked out just fine. It's like, no, after all the stuff we've seen, someone's walking away with some PTSD at least.
It's like Mima's gonna need some therapy or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to really say like what happened to anybody or who the real killer was or what happened in here, but it is one of those things where at the very end of this, you do get that, they give like one shot, and I was like, there's gonna be one final scare, like one final like everything is not okay scene. And I was like, no, that was just it, just credits. Like,
I don't know, maybe we're just so used to horror movies having that stinger.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even like I need one final scare. I know I just said that, but it's not just that. It's more of I need some kind of a sign that's like not everyone is 100% okay right now. I mean, granted, again, spoilers, it was not okay. But, yeah, it's like, at the very end of this, Mima kind of walks away from this just like, all right, cool, everything's fine now. It's like, was it? Are you okay? Are you all right? Yeah, it's,
Yeah, like, she felt a little too happy. Like, I felt like maybe it's just, like, had a sigh of relief of something that like, oh, now I understand what's going on, and
You know,
I
it's
feel
true. We're getting into spoilers on this. It is too hard to not do spoilers on this. Okay, so spoilers. So the big reveal is that it was Rumi
Yes.
who was the killer, and Rumi thought she was Mimuri. Like, Rumi, like, the reason earlier on when you look at this and you see, like, Rumi's one, like, you're not doing that scene, you're not doing this, or, like, there's a moment which you're seeing, like, Rumi and the other agent actually watch her during the rape scene, and the agent who was like, nah, you're gonna do it, it's gonna be fine. Even he's just like, oh, this was a mistake.
And then, like, Rumi just, like, gets up and runs
she's
away crying.
Yeah.
Like,
And, man, it was rough. But at the end of this, when you see, like, no, it's kind of, like, revealed, she was kind of a Mima stalker herself.
Yeah.
She was basically, like, no, Mima is this thing that's pure and good and wonderful, and you can't taint that with all this acting stuff going on. And then she's like, well, if you're going to taint all that, then I'll be Mimuri. Like, I really did enjoy that reveal. I think that actually works great. And what's really good about it is that at the end of this, she's like, well, I guess I have to kill you so that way I can be free of you. So she's hunting her down throughout the city, and I mean, it's a great sequence of her chasing her. And there's moments in which, like, you see, like, Mimuri, like, just dancing along behind her and laughing and giggling. And all I could think was, how on earth is she, like, just, like, bouncing around and dancing and prancing all over the place while Mima is, like, getting the crap kicked out of her trying to run away? Like, you see Mima, like, falling off of buildings and falling into trash and, like, just stumbling through the city trying to get away from her. And meanwhile, like, the ghostly spirit of Mimuri is, like, just dancing along after her. And there's a moment which you see her...
like, it cuts to Rumi again. Like, the ghost becomes Rumi, and you just see her, like, running.
It's not even that it cuts to her. It's that anytime that you see a reflection...
Yeah.
It's Rumi.
Yeah, that's it.
And then you see, like, Mimuri, like, dancing down the street, but she's dancing past windows. And in the windows, you see, like, Rumi, like, she's swaying, she's, like, just running after her, and she's got this crazed look in her face.
Like,
that was great. That was an amazing shot. Yeah,
and, like, she was the one who was, like I get talking to the fan online saying...
That's the impression that you get, which is how she knows everything about her.
But the fan was like a bouncer at originally. Like
I thought he was like it's weird. You see him on like 9 different roles. Because there's a moment in which at like one of their shows, he's wearing like a badge, so it looks like he's a bouncer or something. But there's another moment in which you see him with like a camera, standing around with a lot of the other paparazzi guys. So maybe he was that. And there's a moment that you see him on set at the show. So you get the feeling he just takes whatever job he can get so he can follow Mima around.
Exactly. Bless you, Peach.
Wow, I'm the one that's supposed to be sneezing, Peach, not you. But yeah, but at the end of this, what I meant my problem with this film is that at the very end of this thing, they end up capturing Rumi. She goes to a psychological hospital, and she's in there, and Mima, now with like longer hair and sunglasses so you can tell like some time has passed, she's watching her in there, and is like, yeah, well, she's never gonna be the same, but at least you're doing okay. And then she goes out to her car, and you see these other nurses going like, is that the lady from that show? Is that the lady from that show? Oh my goodness, yeah, I've been watching her in that show. And
no, they were like, no, it's probably a lookalike or something.
Yeah, it's probably a lookalike, but they were recognizing her for the show and not for
pop
for
idol,
Cham, the group that she was in, the pop group that she was in. So she's no longer an ex-pop star. She's now an actress like she wanted to be. She goes in there and she gets into her car and she looks in the car, she looks in the rearview mirror at herself and she goes, I know who I am, smile. And then cut to like bouncy, uplifting credits. I was like, after all the things that you went through, you're not like, yeah, all right, Mentos commercial. Like, you're not going to be 100% fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need one final scare. Like, she looks in the mirror and smiles at herself, and then she turns away from the mirror, and then you see, like, the memory reflection there for a brief second or something. Like, some kind of, like, hint that was like, no, she got messed with hard during this movie, and she's not going to bounce back 100%, but she is making some kind of a recovery. Anything else you want to add to this?
I don't think so. It's like, actually, I was remembering, like, something someone said on Twitter about, like, there needs to be more animated horror movies because you can do so much more with animation, and I think this is a really good example of that.
Which the weird thing is, this isn't even, like, aside from the moments of, like, Mimuri, like, bouncing around, everything, This is a very, like, realistic...
Yeah, I can honestly say, like, I would like to see, like, a live-action remake of this.
Yes, I'd be 100% fine with that.
Especially with, like, the internet being the way it is now, you're like...
It's kind of like what we were talking about with Misery, about people were like, oh, you should not remake this thing. It's like, yeah, except that the subject in question is so much bigger now because of the internet. So it kind of, like, there kind of is a point to remake this. I totally think that you could absolutely remake this thing. I'm not saying it would be as good as this, but it'd be one of those things where you remake it and then you walk away like, yeah, okay, that was actually worth it.
Like an interesting take on it, like a new, different take, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, so aside from like the modes of like memory like bouncing around, there's nothing in here that really is like, oh, that's very much like an animated thing, like something that really only works in animation. Like everything else in here is meant specifically to be very realistic. That's one of the reasons why it works, is that when you see terrible things happening to Mima, it feels very realistic. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of viewer request week, which means that we are going into the final week. This is like the first time we've ever done Thorgiween, where the final week of October is an actual full week from Sunday to Saturday. And the final theme for next week is going to be werewolf movies. This, in fact, we saved Perfect Blue for the very final day of the viewer request, because it was requested to us by someone named Wolfsbane on Twitter. So I was like, all right, kind of works out just great. But the reason why we were doing werewolf movies next week is because, hey,
Halloween's going to be on a full moon on Halloween.
And yeah, I remember when you told me that, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm sure that doesn't happen that often, but I mean, it's probably a common enough thing that it's not worth doing a theme around. But then I looked up and it's like, no, the next time this will happen is 2039. So yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do a theme. So next week is going to be nothing but werewolf movies. So come back for that. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. And as always, happy Halloween.
Bye.